So this video is for the direct quotations and quotations assignments that you had for both yesterday, November the 16th, and today, November the 17th. So let's dig right in. The instructions are very simple. It says that there are two types of quotations, indirect and indirect. Let's go through the notes real quick. On page 115, it says an indirect quotation tells what someone said, but it doesn't use his or her exact words. Indirect, Mr. Lawrence told us that Big Bend Park had miles of trails for hiking. Remember, it's indirect. It means it's what he said, but it's not telling us directly what Mr. Lawrence said. Okay, so we don't have to use quotation marks there. But when we state somebody saying something directly to us or talking to us directly and having dialogue with us, we use quotation marks. We call that a direct quotation. So on the sheet at the top, it says a direct quotation shows a person's exact words. Use quotation marks around a direct quotation and capitalize the first word. Direct. Mr. Lopez said, comma, quotation marks, Big Bend has many miles of great trails, end quotation marks, with a period before the quotation marks. Right? Notice how, one, there's a comma after the word said, and then, of course, what was being stated exactly is put inside quotation marks. And since the quotation comes at the end of the sentence, you put a period at the end, okay? And the quotation after the period, not the period after the quotation. It's always period before quotation mark, all right? So number one, it says you're supposed to tell whether the quotation is direct or indirect. Add quotation marks where they are needed. Well, let's get going with that. And it says Uncle Robert told us he wanted to visit Big Bend National Park. Well, it's not stated directly, right? There are no quotation marks around anywhere, so it says indirect. Okay, so I'm just going to put an I in there. Number two, he said, this is one of the biggest desert areas in America. Notice again that this is something that is stated directly. The clue is that you have the word said and there's a comma. You got to put quotation marks around what is being stated directly, right? And this is direct. Number three, I asked him if he ever had seen a mountain lion. And again, this is something that is not said directly. So this would be indirect. Number four, Rachel echoed, did you ever, Uncle Robert? This is stated directly. You got a comma right there. So you put this in quotation marks, right? Opening and closing quotation marks. This is direct. Number five, he laughed. Yes, I have. And that was a great day. And remember, this is again being stated directly to us. You put this in quotation marks. And this one is also direct. For the paragraph you're supposed to, it says place quotation marks where they are needed in the paragraph below. Uncle Robert said, when I was walking on Emery Park, I saw a large animal running in the distance. I knew right away it was a cougar. So what did Uncle Robert say? Right there. There are your quotation marks at the beginning and at the end. He did say a lot, so you put all of that in quotation marks. The next paragraph says, Rachel is my babysitter, and sometimes we think alike. Nothing stated directly by Rachel there or anyone. It says, I told Uncle Robert I had read that cougars could kill a dozen sheep at once. Now it says, I told Uncle Robert, but it doesn't say that they're stating it directly. So it's not the exact words there. So we don't put that in quotation marks. That's indirect. I also told him they could jump nearly 25 feet. Again, indirect quotation marks or indirect quotation because, again, it's not being stated directly, right? Or exactly like whoever spoke or said it, right? And the last one, Uncle Robert told us both to relax. Again, that's indirect. Then he said, now pay attention to that. You see the comma, right? It says, then he said, what did he say? Directly, exactly. In this park, the cougars are not used to humans. They don't want to meet us either. So what is being stated directly, we put quotation marks around, and that would be an example of a direct quotation. Okay, so that's the assignment for Monday, November the 16th, right? This is the assignment for today. Let me go ahead and move up here. The assignments for today are the instructions at the top say, it says direct quotations and the names of stories and essays are placed in quotation marks. Capitalize the first word of a quotation and any proper nouns. If other words come before the quotation in a sentence, use a comma and a space before the quotation mark. At the end of the quotation, put a comma or other punctuation inside the quotation mark. Leave space after the ending quotation mark. Examples: Mr. Brennan said, comma, open quotation marks, hello, class. And then watch out, the punctuation mark is before the closing quotation marks, right? Okay, now look at the other one. The quotation or the dialogue comes at the beginning of a sentence. Look, it says, open quotation marks, hello, class, exclamation mark, quotation marks. Notice that there's no comma here, right? When the quotation comes at the beginning, you don't put a comma. Well, sometimes you do, but the reason why there's no comma here is because they have an exclamation mark there too. So it says, exclaim Miss Brennan. In the last example, it says, we read Cinderella today. Now, why do they put quotation marks around the word Cinderella? Because if you remember correctly from the top, it says that you can also, uh, when you use direct quotations in the names of stories, you put quotation marks on or around them. Also around essay titles and so on and so forth. So since Cinderella is the title of a story, we put quotation marks around it. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into the assignment. 1 through 5, it says, write whether the punctuation spacing in each sentence is correct or incorrect. Number 1, it says, our teacher explained, the Venus Sayulita, Mexico, is now protected. Is the punctuation correct? Well, let's take a look. Well, the quotation mark comes at the end, right? So, do we put a comma there to introduce a quotation? Yep. Are there quotation marks at the beginning and at the end? Yep. Is there a period before the ending quotation mark? Yes. So this is correct. We put a C. Well, I'm going to put a C in there because I can't write the entire thing in there, but you can, right? Number 2, it says, Veronica asked, which wild animals live along the coast? Again, pay attention. The quotation comes at the beginning. How the punctuation marks, are they in the right place? Number 3, it says, the quotation now comes at the beginning of the sentence. Check that out. It says, sea turtles lay their eggs on that beach. Explain Rosa. Now, is this correct or incorrect? Well, let's look at what the example that we have over here. Check this out. And I'm thinking of the middle one right here, which says hello class, exclamation mark, and the quotation marks are around. The exclamation mark is inside the quote. So over here on our example, we have that the comma is outside the quotation mark. So that's incorrect. The comma should be inside the quotation or before the ending quotation. So this should be, where is it? This should be in there. This should be, again, the comma should be inside the quotation marks. All right, other than that, it is, the sentence itself is incorrect. All right, so I just want to throw that at you. Watch out for number 4. Number 4, the quotation mark again comes at the end. Are there any punctuation mistakes there? Are there any capitalization mistakes as well, and so on and so forth? If there are, well, that's incorrect, right? Number 5, the quotation comes at the beginning. Are the letters being punctuated in the right? I'm sorry. Is the quotation mark being? Are we using correct punctuations, are there any capitalization mistakes in there? Number 6, it says rewrite each sentence on the line. Use the correct spacing, capitalizing, and punctuation. Remember, capitalize names of people, buildings, books, stories, and essays. Number 6, it says Rachel said, I went to the meeting at City Hall. So what do we do there? Well, let me see. Let me go ahead and see if I can make this a little bit bigger so that way I can write on it. And there it is. Perfect. And I'm going to try and see if I don't write too big. Obviously, Rachel needs to be capitalized because it's the beginning of the sentence, right? This is Rachel said. What do we need to put there? Well, we're about to introduce a quotation, so we put a comma right afterwards. What did she say? Quotation marks, beginning quotation marks. I went to the meeting. And I'm going to run out of space, so I'm just going to put the 3 dots. You can fill it in at yourself. Just make sure that at the end of the sentence you put a period and you finish it with a closing quotation marks. And that's how you fix that, okay? Let's see, I'm going to look at one that has the quotation marks or the quotation at the end. Well, they actually all have, well, not all of them. How about number 8? Number 8 has a quotation, comes at the beginning of the sentence. So that'll help you to do number 9 also. It says, is there enough money in our budget? Asked Miss Harlow. Well, it's words that are being stated directly by Miss Harlow, so we're going to put beginning quotation marks there. Capitalize the I and is there enough money? And I'm just going to put my 3 dots just to finish it off. And then be careful with this one because it is asking a question. So make sure to put the question mark inside and then close it with the quotation marks. And then of course, you can finish it off with asked Miss Harlow. Period. Don't forget that period at the end, right? You gotta put that period at the end. So again, remember, when the quotation comes at the beginning, either you put the comma or the punctuation mark inside the quotations, right? So it's if you're saying something with excitement, you put a excitement, you put an exclamation mark. If it's something just declaring something or commanding, imperative or declarative, you put a period. And of course, if you just put a comma in there, you don't want to use any of those punctuation marks. So that'll help you to do number 9. Hopefully this helps with that. All right, guys, moving on.